Well, good evening, all my little digis and dinos. Renamon, kind of a little bit barneyed here at the moment, and in a pretty pink dress, is here to entertain you. My ear just does not behave tonight. There we go. More or less. Anyway, tonight, we just did a video in the Barney costume, wearing a pretty pink dress with the big poofy sleeves, and, well, we do game thoughts. And I'm going to do it a three-way tonight. And it's from 3 games out of a series. Watch me try and hold all this up at once. That would be Sonic the Hedgehog 1 through 3. Now, 2 of these came with my Genesis when I got it. And one of them I got a little bit later on. And all 3 of which had a lot of playtime in them in my book. So, they're basically a lot more of the same game. So, unlike, say, Mario 2 to Mario 3, we don't have a major super style change or anything. If anything, just controls got a little bit more refined between some of the variants there. So we'll start with the first one, basically. It was a good platformer game with some encouraged running involved. Now, running often meant you were running into something dangerous, and meant you had to pay attention more, especially for pop-up spikes or bad guys or whatever. And sometimes even being in a spinny ball would still leave you vulnerable. So that was a bit of a conundrum. Go fast, get the level over with quickly, but risk hitting things and losing all those precious rings you've scored, and lose your chance to get a special zone after the mission was over. Now, the first game was pretty basic. You were Sonic, you ran, you killed Dr. Robotnik, well, you blew up his whatever machine, and freed a bunch of animals. Awesome. 2, they added a co-pilot, a Tails following you around. Now, this was a major game changer, as far as most of us are concerned. 1, you had a sister character to play with. I don't mean Tails was a girl, I mean it was a reason to have my sister in the room with me when I was playing a game. You see, Tails was invulnerable, but he still did damage. So, all you had to do was have Sonic be out of the way when there was something dangerous, make Tails attack it, Sonic is fine, and that guy gets damage. Everybody wins. Nobody loses rings, we move on. Tails falls in the lava or whatever and dies. He just helicopters back in off the top of the screen and keeps playing. So that was pretty cool. Now, you could just play as Tails as opposed to playing as Sonic, but it just wasn't any different. Other than the fact you were a single character as opposed to potentially 2 hits auto-jumping, whatever it was. Really just one person with a controller. Also, they added the racing function for a 2-player mode. So that was kind of neat, but the way they scrunched the scenes for top and bottom of a CRT made it a little bit hard to play. But I still did it a lot because, well, it was 2-player action that we had available. Now, 3, I feel, really did pull this all together. And I say that because in 3, you now had a reason to actually play Tails. He could fly. He could use that special ability. 3 also added in some new special shields. The fire shield, the water shield, the electric shield, which all had special properties. special extra immunities, which was good. And Sonic had a special instant jump shield that he could use. That was his payoff instead of having the ability to fly like Tails had. 3 also had more of a continuation thing, as far as I'm concerned. Like the midway mission didn't just kind of stop and you started a new mission. Then you would continue onward, possibly to a mini boss, and then the game kept going, or just the bouncy sign and then you kept going. This was good. It made the full level feel more complete, as opposed to being just chunks of level like the previous games had been. Now, definitely going to say on the first one, once you got past the first level, the Green Hill Zone, there wasn't as much running. It was a lot more platforming. It felt like it was almost a different game, just we stuck Sonic in it. 2 and 3 had less of that, but there were a lot of times when that would still happen. And it almost was frustrating, but not enough to make you not want to play. They all had a lot of really good level designs. They all had hated water levels where you were constantly drowning. I've had enough nightmares with that noise going through my head. Anytime I was in a water level, I was constantly just looking for the next point I could jump out of the water, or the next bubble spot where I could look for a bubble so I could regain my air timer. And in Chemical Plant Zone in 2, I was frustratingly moving to get out of the chemical after that one point where you're under the chemicals and you had to jump on the sliding blocks, move your way up, because it took a long time to get that mastered right. Anywho, the bosses, as the games went on, were progressively more entertaining and better. The first game's bosses were ho-hum. Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman, his little car with a swinging ball is kind of iconic at this point, but kind of a lame first boss. Sonic 2, the first boss was he lands that little egg car in a car, which goes from side to side of the screen and shoots a drill at you. A little bit more fun, a little more of a boss in my book. Just a couple of quick examples there. And in the third game, you actually start with a mid-boss on that first zone, and it's this little fire toasting robot that's shooting fire and stuff out at you, and it burns down the woods and changes the nature of the zone from being a pretty green area to an on fire area. And it was some kind of fire-based boss variant at the end with Dr. Robotnik in it. Can't remember exactly. It's not as, super memorable as, say, those first 2 real bosses were, but it was a boss. And it was a lot more detailed, which was nice. And consecutively, throughout the games, progressively, they got more runny, which is what you wanted when you were playing Sonic, that the first game didn't have as much of. The third one, the most runny, the most you could feel active. And because they did give you the flying option, they tried to put sky blocks in certain places so you can just, cheat your way out of the whole game. And from 2 on, you weren't just trying to have enough rings to get to the end of the level to get a special zone to get a Chaos Emerald. In 2, you had to have 100 rings when you hit a checkpoint, and you get a spiral of sparkles that you jump into. And in 3, you had to find hidden big rings throughout the world in secret locations. Uh, and each of these 3 games had different mini games to get the Chaos Emerald. One was a rotating world that you're just basically trying to not fall and hit the exit plops and breaking through the walls around the where the Chaos Emerald was. It was not a bad thing, but it wasn't great. The second one had this like pipeline thing where you're running along in kind of a 3D thing, getting the rings. It was hard to control. But you had to collect enough rings and you would get a Chaos Emerald. Not terrible, not the most amazing. 3 was running along 3-dimensional world, having to touch only blue spheres and not touch a red sphere. And it would get faster the more blue spheres you had. You had to collect all of the blue spheres. Every time you got a blue sphere, it turned into a red sphere. So you could not turn around. And if you trapped a blue sphere in the middle of red spheres, they turned into rings, and you automatically had collected the blue sphere. Rings were even further bonuses in these stages, so that was kind of good too. All right, and those are all most of the fun things about these games. Of course, collect rings, give you help. Rings are effectively your invulnerability nature. As long as you have rings, you're a bad guy, you don't die. Falling in holes or lava, you still die right away. And I always was frustrated when they added instant death places in games like this because it felt like the holes are just so eh. Now, we're not done here. We have 3 games. But there's kind of a 4th game in this trilogy. Sonic and Knuckles. Now, you can't play this as this on most of the retro consoles. You have to actually get something that's actually reading the game as the game. So my Retron 5 can't do this, but my regular Genesis can. Plug Sonic and Knuckles in, flip the top open, and you plug Sonic 3 in, or Sonic 2 in. Now you can play as Knuckles. So, Sonic 3 gets a kind of a level revamp when you're playing it with Knuckles, which is interesting. A little bit of a different storyline, so that's a cool option set. He can do this kind of wall climb thing, and to do it, first he's flying sideways with his knuckles out. Kind of a cheap move, honestly, because of how well you can just soar past a lot of stuff. You jump from a high spot. And then you can climb up a wall. This can be very useful. It's a good way to cheat around yourself in the game and where you need to go. Not quite as fun as Tails' flying ability, in my opinion, but still fun. Has a different kind of way to play the game, too. I do have it. I just left it in the other room. I wasn't thinking. So you have different ways to play even that beyond the regular games. Original first 2, you don't have saves in them at all. 3 and Knuckles, you do have saves. And if you have Knuckles and 3 together, you get more saves. I don't remember if you get saves on Sonic 2 with Knuckles on there, but I don't think you do. Now, those were the Genesis Sonic games. Not counting like Spinball, which I already talked about. That's kind of a separate thing. Not talking about Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. That's just another Tetris game. More like a Dr. Mario. Whatever you want to call it. They were all very similar, very almost identical in pixel style. So you can see there is a major difference between 1 and 3, but one step at a time, you almost can't tell the difference. The bad guys, the environments, they're all very similar. Controls pretty much the same. Um, it was from 2 onward that you had the spin dash option where you just hold down and you can zip yourself up to a fast spinning ball. This was good because in 1 you had a few times where you kind of could get yourself stuck and you have to like run backwards to run forward to go through a loop or something. Oh, the days. You had to run back to run forward to make a loop. Memories. There was one other one in this direct era that was apparently not now part of this same particular canon timeline. That was Sonic CD, which kind of came before 2, but kind of came out at the same time. They were produced at about the same time. It had a lot of time travel elements. I never owned it, and anytime I tried to play it as a kid at a friend's house, because I didn't have a Sega CD, because I didn't have the money to pay for that extra $200 add-on to my game system for like 2 games that I might have wanted to play. I would always get so confused because you can travel to the past or the future on the same level, which would change how things were. I would never know, did I need to be in the past? Did I need to be in the future? Did I need to be in the present? I just need to get to the end of the level. That's all I knew. I wasn't sure. So it was a lot more zoom and a lot more big splashy running. And because you were still stuck with the capabilities of a CRT television, which was game systems were like similar readout those RFs that VCRs were like 320 by 320 by 240. I think that was the right pair of numbers. Which a TV is still capable. A tube TV was capable of 640 by 480. And nowadays, looking back, being in our minimum happiness of the 1080p, this would be like 240p. Think about that. Not that great. So you're trying to get all this detail for this giant span that you're running on, which is only giving you like this much at a time. You're constantly heading towards where you don't know where you're going. You don't see the end of things. You're just zooming on real far. Which was cool, but frustrating because of the lack of control. So, yeah. But hey, these games were made back in the 90s. I think they were all in the 90s. They were around that time. Early 90s, maybe late 89 shiz for the first one. I can't remember for sure. I would have to look that up, and now I can't see things because my glasses are not on my face. Would I recommend playing any of these games? Oh, yeah, by far. Pick them up. Have fun. You can play most of them on many of the retro game system ones, the reprint consoles. Like, even every one of the at-game systems and the newer Sega-branded Mini Genesis have at least a couple of the Sonic games. I do find it odd. Usually you only have Sonic's 1 and 2 and Spinball on there, but no 3 or Knuckles. And I don't think you can play with the Sonic and Knuckles on the at-games one that had the cartridge slot. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever tried it. But I do have these things. I should give it a whirl at some point and see if it works. But I know it does not work on the Retron 5, which I have as my primary retro gaming system in the living room. Because it does a lot of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so Did you play any of the Sonic games back when they were the thing, or did you play them recently? Did you happen to pick up one of those retro Sisto Doodles, the little micro consoles that have a bunch of games on them? Did you get it on the eShop on the Wii or the Wii U? They've been there. Do you have any good experiences, or bad experiences for that matter? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. So don't forget to also like and subscribe. The little dingly bell lets you know whenever I post a new video, including strange things like wearing a Barney body and a pretty princess dress and a Renamon head, talking about Sonic games. And my Patreon link is in the description below. If you're so inclined that you'd like to help support this channel and help me do more silly videos like this. But for now, this Renapuff princess dinosaur thing is going to sign out. I'll see you again next video. Bye-bye.